Hi, everyone, and welcome to Design TV by Sandow. I'm Avi Rajagopal from Metropolis, and today we're talking to design companies about how they make an impact with people in the world, whether it's through the products they produce or through their other initiatives. To talk about that with me today, here is Mary Beth Shaw, who's the Chief Creative Officer at Wolf Gordon. Mary Beth, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Avi. It's good to be here.
So, Mary Beth, let's start from the basics, your products at Wolf Gordon. Can you talk about how you're thinking about health and well-being as you develop these products and how you're thinking about their impact on people throughout their life?
Yes, we are thinking about ingredients that go into our products from the moment we start to develop them, whether it's a wall covering or wall protection or upholstery textile. We are looking at how we can really improve the quality of the ingredients and make sure that they don't cause any negative reactions in people's health. There's a big movement right now that's kind of gaining momentum in upholstery textiles. We're looking at the PFOAs and all of those stain resistant finishes that we've been using for many years, and really questioning whether we need to have them in and what negative impacts they can have on human health and the environment. So I think on the positive side, we're being very reflective about every chemical that could possibly go into our products. And not just Wolf Gordon as a company, but the industry is really saying, let's move away from these extra finishes and find other ways to keep interiors hygienic and safe for people to use.
I think when we think about the social impact of our design industry, health and well-being is such a big part of it. So thank you so much for the care you take in terms of ingredients and in being part of broader movements in the industry, such as the one around stain-resistant finishes. But let's also talk about the people who make your products. Can you talk about how you consider that when you think about the social impact of Wolf Gordon?
Yes. Over 90% of our products are actually manufactured in the USA. And we have very close relationships with our partner mills for wall covering and textiles. And we know that the labor laws in the United States protect against slave labor and child labor, um, in the gross majority of cases. I know there are some unfortunate exceptions to that. When it comes to sourcing overseas, we are going in and looking at the manufacturers and, very much talking to the liaison to those manufacturers to make sure that the working conditions are correct, that there's adequate ventilation and daylight, and the hours aren't too long. So, all of those are very important considerations in sourcing abroad. Um, I think that, health and wellness and sustainability are really the way into design for equity. For me personally, that's been my path. And I think that it's a path that a lot of us are embarking on and have a lot to learn and need to grow with this movement and incorporate more and more of the guidelines into our daily work. So I really think this whole project is extremely important and commend you and Metropolis for initiating it.
Thank you, Maribeth. I want to pick up on that idea around sustainability and well-being. Um, you know, how do we make sure that our work that we're doing on sustainability is actually widespread, that a lot more people have access to it? Because one of the reasons why we do this work around material chemistry and transparency is so that we can make that impact in people's lives. So what do you think our industry needs to do to make that more widespread, at least here in the United States?
Well, I would say since the dawning of the sustainability movement, let's say US Green Building Council lead, early 1990s, there have been there's been tremendous progress made, and more individuals in our industry on all sides, whether it's manufacturing, distribution, customers, architects, designers, we're all very aware of the green building movement. But it's also somewhat, in our country, still a track that is optional. And I think even when you look at academic programs, there's like a separate sustainability or health and wellness track within the curricula. So this makes everything optional, and the individual is either inclined or not to take that path and integrate all of this learning and the guidelines of how to do healthy interiors. It's optional. There's not this from the get-go integration of these, sustainability, health and wellness, and design for equity principles into the design process. It's not kind of mandated across all projects. So I think that we need to evolve in the United States more towards a model where every single product, every single design project is thinking about all of those considerations from the get-go. That, that's just part and parcel of what we do, and that's going to take a massive change in our mentality. And, we really need to take stock of where we're at this point in time, with climate change accelerating, all kinds of things that we see in the news on a daily basis, weather events, famine. We need to really organizationally, each person, organization, the industry, we need to really take it very seriously and say, what are we doing? Take stock of where we're at right now and how we can evolve to incorporate this thinking into every aspect of design development. I think I mentioned to you that I was recently over in the Netherlands for Dutch Design Week, and this was very much front of mind for me as I walked through the exhibitions and the Eindhoven Design Academy graduation show. I was struck by how the students there, for example, it's just ground zero of what they're doing. It's not even called out as a special part of what they're doing, because it's a given that they're going to be incorporating this thinking into their conceptualization. And I saw, this this idea of equity built into product design and also architecture. So, for example, I was at the Van Abbe Museum exhibition of Lee Edelkort's collection, which she has recently donated to the museum. It's a wonderful exhibition. And there's, for example, pottery. When you first walk in, it's pottery from one particular part of the Netherlands, but the colors of the clay are all different, and you can't help but think about skin color and diversity, and how in this one small region of farmland, actually in the Netherlands, there's all of this diversity and richness. So like right off the bat at the beginning of the exhibition. It's front and center, and it gives pause. That project was by NL Atelier, and I thought it was really beautiful and poignant. And then at the Design Academy, I came upon many projects, too many to mention, that spoke to equity. But there was one project in particular that was called The Bittersweet Memory of the Plantation. And this young woman, Yassine Ben Abdallah, had gone to, I suppose, a museum on Réunion, an island, French colonial island. And she had seen all of these articles, these historical artifacts of slave owners and landowners from Réunion. But obviously, what was missing were the artifacts of the slaves, the people who didn't have something to put into a museum eventually. So she did this incredible collection of machetes that were made out of sugarcane syrup, and they were very ghost like. So it's almost like, you know, the spectral remains of the slaveholding times, and the the work and the labor that resulted in the wealth of the people whose articles are in the museum. So it was very intense. And I found that work to be just incredibly conceptual and memorable, and inspired me to want to do work and incorporate work into our collections that have some of this deeper meaning and resonance. And finally, at the scale of architecture in the city, MVRDV's project, Boyman's Depot, is a really revolutionary program of building where instead of having the art that is not on display in a museum, behind closed doors, locked, not accessible to people, this building completely opens up the collection that's not currently on display at the museum to the people of the city, of the world. And you can just walk in, and there's this incredible feeling of transparency and accessibility and democracy. And so I think that, you know, what I saw at these different scales of museum exhibition and graduation show and architecture and the city, it's just it's very inspiring. I know there's really good work going on in the United States. I know there's a lot of individuals who are working to achieve the same results. And I just think it needs to be more widespread. And I think it really needs to be integrated into every school, every design studio, every Wolf Gordon type company. We've got to be thinking about these issues. And so that was my big takeaway.
I love that, Mary Beth. I think thank you for that reminder of the power that art and design have in terms of, making the invisible visible, in terms of representing marginalized communities, in terms of allowing free and fair access to all kinds of people, whether that's, through product, through space, or at the city scale. I think there's just so much more for us to be able to do. So we start with the baseline of, do no harm, don't put harmful chemicals, don't use child labor, and don't use exploitative labor. But then we build on that to say, how can we express the larger ideals? And I think you've done that so well for us. Thank you so much, Mary Beth, today for talking to us, and thank you all for joining us. If you want to know more about the wonderful work that Mary Beth and her team do at Wolf Garden, head on over to wolfgarden.com. Thank you so much, Mary Beth. Have a great day.
Thank you, Avi. You too.